largest sugar producer on the continent, extensive agricultural and manufacturing operations in 6 African countries. We'll go through them in a minute. 51% owned by Associated British Foods, and we'll learn again why that might be interesting, because it allows access to the European market. Price to earnings ratio of 13.6, dividend yield of 3%. So Gary, sugar, first of all, tell me what's going on in the sugar market per se, and then we'll look at the Illovo chart in a minute.
No, sugar, I mean, the sugar market's been fairly difficult. I mean, you can see in Illovo's last at least results period. I mean, they increased volumes, increased yield, everything looking good, but, still under pressure. And that's obviously coming as a function that the sugar price has collapsed a little bit. I mean, we're down to, I think, about 17 US cents per pound. So, I mean, that's come all the way down from about, I think it's about 32. So I was
going to say, 35 or something is what I remember.
So
to what, 17 now?
17. So it's definitely, I mean, you're looking at it, I mean, analysts are calling this the bottom, but like you say, you never know with these things. I mean, the sugar price, over the last, say, 2 years, I mean, we had, almost a deficit in Europe about 2 years ago. I mean, you suddenly see all the sugar producers massively upping, Brazil, South Africa, everywhere upping their, the sugar planting to match that. And you just get this supply-demand cycle out of sync a little bit. And suddenly you have a glut of sugar on the market and the demand's not quite as strong as it used to be.
Because as I've read somewhere, obviously there's the established country markets, and then India is a big growth market for sweets and so on, but then India hasn't been doing all that well. And then the Brazilians have this enormous crop. They use some of the cane for ethanol, which kind of links the sugar price to the oil price. But what you're overall saying is that at the moment we're in a situation where the market looks a little bit oversupplied, which is not too fabulous.
Exactly, which isn't.
Okay, well, let's talk about Illovo specifically. So we've got South African operations, and then critically also Zambia and Malawi, where it owns those companies that are set up there. They supply those local markets, and then in addition, the offshore offtake. So in terms of Africa sugar demand, I mean, is that okay-ish?
No, that definitely, I mean, Illovo itself is very positive on the Africa development. So, I mean, you're looking at it, I think, that you're looking at sort of global demand to go up about 2.3%, Africa to grow at about 3.5%. Okay. So Africa is almost leading it. And I mean, Illovo specifically is looking for, the European market, which is softening a little bit.
Well, just talk to us about that. So the ABF link, does that mean that they can sort of facilitate the purchasing of sugar from countries like Malawi, because it's the most favored nation, and get preferential access into the European market, where they've got those funny, like, historic arrangements with the beet industry in Germany and all of that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and to put it in perspective, while Illovo specifically is hoping that Africa is going to sop up some of that extra demand, I mean, they have like you said, they have long-term preferential contracts with Europe and very good relationships there. I think it's just really looking for an outlet if the demand doesn't come through in Europe, where can they basically shift their product to? And they're looking at Africa, and they're looking at it as an opportunity specifically for them because of their positioning, because of being in obviously Zambia and moving up into Africa. They've actually got a logistical advantage over a lot of the other, like you mentioned, the Brazilian sugar producers. So it's not all bad for Illovo despite the weak conditions.
So what do you think is going on here? I mean, why did it do that spike to 40? This is the 5-year chart of Illovo, right? And interestingly, we've owned this stock at various points in the portfolio because we kind of thought, well, look, it's the best in the sector. And we definitely missed that. I'd remember if we'd been in it during that period. But I'm happy to see that we're not in it currently, and most recently it's slumped downward. We exited it somewhere here.
Yeah. I'm not sure where that spike actually came from, but yeah, this latest slump would just be on the back of the latest set of results, which weren't particularly bad. But the problem is obviously not exciting the market either, because I mean, you had headline earnings up, slightly, but nothing spectacular. And it's just difficult to see where they, with the sugar price low, where are they going to push through the increases from? I mean, obviously they're looking at specifically the downstream businesses. So I mean, there's a sector that they're expecting sort of to double their earnings from going forward. I mean, they've already put in a distillery up in Tanzania.
Which is to do what? Distill what? Like rum?
Yeah, make sugar cane. I mean, make cane, yeah. So, I mean, obviously, they all those offshoots, like you've already mentioned, like the Brazilians sometimes go to ethanol.
Yes,
like, I mean, and Illovo doing the same thing, looking for other uses for their product.
And all sorts of related
anything that can substitute.
Value-added stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, quick question before we move on about management. Graham Clark, I think, was the guy who was running it. He retired and then popped up as the CEO designate of Dangote Sugar in Nigeria. Fine, good luck to him. The replacement guy, his surname is Dalglish. I can't remember his first name, except that I can remember it's not Kenny. And he's the new guy, but I think he was operationally with ABF somewhere else. I mean, there's no question marks there. Well-run British conglomerate sending good solid colonial types out to manage Illovo down here. I mean, that's a plus, right?
Yeah. It seems, I mean, I've read a couple of interviews with him. He seems fairly switched on and knows where to look for opportunities.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, from what I've read, the management team is fairly strong.
Yeah.
I don't know them personally, though.
Hot or not on this one?
Difficult, difficult just because of the global market conditions. I'm actually not hot on this one specifically. You know, its PE has re-rated a little bit, so it's cheaper than it was. But yeah, not hot for me, not yet. Too cyclical a business at the moment.
But bouncy, and the market not looking so fabulous against that backdrop. Okay, good. I'm not hot on it too.